Yeah, you can come sit here. I'm just gonna keep the laptop right here. Hello, everybody. Anyone whistle really loud? There we go, lots of whistles. All right, if you don't have a chair, there's some back there. There's also some comfy chairs in that conference room we can roll out. Come sit on the sofa. Yeah. Feel free and kick back, relax. So thanks everybody for coming. New location that we're trying out. Seems like it's working pretty well, and feedback is appreciated. If you liked Worthy more, or you like, being here more, please let us know. We'll try out a couple different places. We got generously BendTech kind of gave us the option to come here and test out their space. So again, thank you for coming. Showing up. This is the last kickoff to summer. We'll kind of do this. Will probably be the last one until September. Everyone's traveling and having fun outside, so kind of isn't always fun to come inside, for multiple hours on end during the middle of the summer. So keep an eye out in the Slack channel. If for some reason you're not in the Slack channel, let me know. I'll get you added. But we have two really good presentations tonight. We got Adriana and Alex. I have no idea what either of them are on, but it should be exciting. While we get started, I want to give a big shout out, as always, to our sponsors, people that make it so we can kind of do this every month and, have the pizza and the beer and everything. So CodePen has been, longest time sponsor since the very beginning of this. UpTech Studio has been a sponsor for quite a while. And then more specifically here today, BendTech for giving us the space. And then we have the Lad Group, which has funded drinks and pizza and just everything we've been doing all year. So big thanks. Jacqueline's over here, and I'll let her come up and say a few words in a minute. One second. And then also we have Elaine from Technology Association of Oregon, where all that money flows through. So I don't have to deal with accounting or anything, because they are a nonprofit and help support communities and tech communities like ours. So I'll let her say a few words in a minute. Real quick, Jason, who is the president of BendTech, wanted me to also share this, which I will share in the Slack channel. Let's see where it is. Free day passes. So if you're part of BendJS, you want to come check out BendTech and see what it's like to work here. Get free day passes. Jason is actually in the BendJS channel. It's Jason Weiner. And I'll also give you his email address. And then they're also doing special lobby passes for BendJS. So $100 a month for the first 3 months to come test out unlimited lobby space. So it's kind of their version of a floating desk. Everything in there is dedicated desks. If you have questions about dedicated desks, you talk to Jason. But for $100, you can come and have access to the full kitchen. They have beer sponsor, I think, too. So there's always beers and stuff in here, coffee, food, and then you have access to this whole area. And at some point when they finish their fitness room, you'll have access to that as well. So our next sponsor, Jacqueline, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I'll be really quick. And my name's Jacqueline Oakland. I'm with the Lad Group at Sotheby, which is just down the street. I started coming to these for moral support or just to tag along because I had nothing else to do. And, there was a call out to sponsors. So I'm proud to be part of this group, even though I'm not in tech. I am in awe of what all of you do because a lot of it goes over my head, but I'm starting to learn some. So anyway, it's great to be here and to sponsor this part of our community. So thank you for having me. And if you would like to stop by my booth, I'd love to meet you. I promise I won't spam you and I won't steal your data. And I have a giveaway. So if you want to drop a card or fill out a little form. Thanks again, and take it away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, these pizzas that you're eating, she is directly responsible for. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
All right, up next, a couple words from Elaine. So she is the community director for TAO, Technology Association of Oregon.
Thank you, Kyle. Hi, everyone. My name is Elaine Shah. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for Technology Association of Oregon. For those of you who are not familiar, Technology Association of Oregon is a member association that supports the state of Oregon as well as Southwest Washington. My role really is to create communities, and I'm really, really grateful to have Kyle as a partner so that he can help to nurture this community here in Bend. I live in Portland. This is actually my first time to Bend, and I'm having a great time. We're going to float the river tomorrow, so, you know, it's great weather. So I'm just really appreciative of Kyle and of the sponsors for, you know, providing you the opportunity to meet with one another and to share best practices and to build community. We, TAO, is trying to be more intentional about being in other spaces and places besides Portland. So more often you will see us here. For those of you that are founders or entrepreneurs, we have a Founders Investing in Founders community that I support. If you are an entrepreneur and you are making $500K or less, we will offer you a free TAO membership. TAO membership really allows you that visibility, great brand presence. We share your case studies, your white papers. You know, if you win a lot of money or get a lot of money from venture capitalists, we like to share your story. We just like to be an extension of your organization and really support you the best way that you can, or we can. If you're not a founder and you're a technologist, software engineer, or developer, like I said, Kyle's done a really great job of nurturing that community. I also support data, cybersecurity, product managers, and HR people and people and culture. So we're trying to, again, create more programming so that we're here in Bend, we're in Eugene. But if I can help you in any way, you know, if you're looking to speak to another XYZ in the tech space, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name's Elaine Shah. There's not a lot of Elaine Shahs on LinkedIn. So connect with me. I'd love to, you know, help make introductions. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to hear about what you're doing and how TA can support you. So thank you so much for the time, and thank you so much for hosting, and thank you all for being here. I know that the pandemic has really kind of changed the way that people show up and when they show up. And so it's really important that you have these communities to build professional relationships. So keep doing it. It's awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the support. All right. And then one I forgot to throw on here because it's a brand new sponsor, but all of the beers tonight are sponsored by Deschutes. They are really trying to support local communities in kind of multiple disciplines, but wanted to be part of and get some visibility and some feedback from the tech community. So at some point I will be dropping a link to like a survey from Deschutes in the chat, and they'll, you know, have some questions. So if you're drinking any of the beer or have any questions on or want to try it, go give it a shot. If beer's not your thing, Deschutes owns Boneyard. And so those CBD elixir things, they're really interested on getting some feedback there as well. So those are non-alcoholic, but just a kind of a good soda. So any feedback that you have, anything that you want me to pass along to them, I know is much appreciated, and also helps you know, them continue to want to sponsor us. So much appreciated there. All right. So the last couple questions that I always try to ask. Is anyone here's company hiring? Wow, tough crowd. All right, we got two. What are you looking for?
A mid-level front-end engineer.
Okay.
Same or high, low, whatever.
Okay.
Yep.
Is anyone looking for work? Oh, one more. Are you guys hiring?
Yeah, I guess as far as I know, we've still got a job posted for database developer administrator,
Okay.
in SQL.
Okay.
That's for, let me know.
Perfect. We got, one more.
I'm kind of almost hiring. I'm a brand new startup, literally the ink is still wet on the documents. At some point, we'll be figuring out how to hire, but yes.
Okay. So we got a few. Again, who is looking for work right now? Awesome. So we got some front end, we got some back end, and we got some who wants to dive into the startup, pool. So afterwards, at lulls in between, make sure you talk to them, at least stay in touch and see if a job may fit. Also, we're always looking for presenters. Like I said, we're not going to do another one until September, but if you have something to share with the group, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 25 minutes. You want to practice something, you're doing a pitch for your company and you want to get some practice and get some feedback, let me know. We're always looking and, try to schedule as far out in advance as we can. But yeah, just shoot me a DM on Slack. And then also, as a big, we have really, really love our sponsors. We're always looking for new ones because it helps us look towards the future and fund bigger initiatives, other things that we might want to do. We've talked about doing some hackathons and some outside or other events outside of just these monthly meetups. So getting new sponsors really helps us be able to prepare for that and just be a little bit more set kind of moving into the future and looking, more than a year ahead. So if your company wants to get any exposure in the local, tech ecosystem or just support a good tech community, definitely let me know. Happy to have some conversations. All right. So we are going to get kicked off with our first presentation. And because we're not hooked up by an HDMI cable, I'm really hoping this works. And if not, Alex, you're up.
Okay.
But we will give this a shot. First one is Adriana. If I can find my mouse. And can you talk?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, sweet. It's working. All right. Okay. So can you share your screen? And I will move.
Yes.
Look at that.
Can you guys see my screen? It should be like a gray. I can't hear anybody. Can anybody hear me? It says you guys can hear and see me. Me. Hmm. Test. Test, test, test. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and start. One second. I can't hear you guys, so like the social cues are not going to be there for me. So you guys have been warned. All right. Hi, good evening. I want to first say thanks to Kyle and BendJS for having me. This was a talk I was going to give anyway, so this was perfect timing when the slot opened up. If you guys don't know me, my name is Adriana. I'm a mid-level developer on my way to move to senior developer. I was in the Army for 8 years doing cyber defense and information security, which is how I broke into the tech industry. Then I got out and got my CS degree here at OSU Cascades and worked in various industries as a full stack developer from fintech to media and entertainment. Now I'm in the hospitality industry. I'm currently in grad school with the University of Texas at Austin pursuing my master's in computer science. Although this is not a super technical talk, it is a talk that is intended to build your interpersonal skills as a developer. I want you to picture this. You're walking into a room, palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, and then Eminem shouts. No, I'm just kidding. So where were we? You're walking into a room and a wave of anticipation and anxiety fluttering in your stomach. The door swings open and the murmur of conversation spills out to greet you. It's an unfamiliar territory, a new environment. The lighting is foreign, the face is unfamiliar. You step inside, and with the door closing behind you, the reality of your situation sinks in. You glance to your left. There's a cluster of people immersed in a deep intellectual conversation, their faces brimming with confidence and poise. Their language and discourse seem almost foreign. Their voices, laden with knowledge and expertise, echo with authority. You then look to your right. There's a person sharing an anecdote, one that resonates with an air of accomplishment. The listeners around them react with amazement and admiration. Every word they utter exudes confidence. Every gesture denotes a sense of belonging. As you stand there, sandwiched between these two scenes of accomplishment and intellect, an unsettling thought seeps into your mind. Am I in the right place? Do I belong here? This feeling of being an outsider in a room full of experts, of being of a novice amid seasoned players, washes all over you. This is imposter syndrome. Even if you're skeptical, I invite you to explore with me today a practical approach to dismantle imposter syndrome, a roadblock that might just be the key to unlocking your true potential as a software developer. Today, we're going to uncover a secret weapon to conquer the daunting imposter syndrome, the React strategy, a brilliant brainchild of an engineering manager from an engineering manager at Zendesk. However, it's essential to remember that this is simply a tool, not a must-use. As with any advice, I encourage you to embrace what resonates and disregard what doesn't align with your experience. In line with a favorite saying of mine concerning objective opinions, please eat the meat and spit out the bones. So on today's insightful agenda, we'll dive into understanding imposter syndrome and its potential impact on our everyday lives as software developers. This will be followed by an introduction to the React strategy, culminating in a comprehensive exploration of each component, each letter of the React acronym. If you have any questions, please, I encourage you to ask them at the very end, and I promise I will have time to answer those questions. So, what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon, was defined by psychologists Pauline Roseclans and Suzanne Imes in 1978. They described it as a psychological phenomenon in which people are unable to internalize their accomplishments. Despite external evidence of their competence, those exhibiting the syndrome remain convinced that they are frauds and do not deserve the success they have achieved. proof of success is dismissed as luck, timing, or as a result of deceiving others and thinking they are more intelligent and competent than they believe themselves to be. This definition has been used and expanded upon by scholars since the initial introduction of the concept. So, how does it necessarily affect software development? Well, imposter syndrome can significantly influence a developer's work in various ways. For instance, it often causes developers to second guess their work, leading to inefficiencies and overcomplications affecting the overall quality. Productivity also takes a hit, as self-doubt and fear of failure can foster procrastination, causing project delays. When it comes to collaboration, developers battling imposter syndrome may hold back from contributing ideas, impacting team dynamics and innovation. Furthermore, the fear of appearing incompetent may deter them from embracing new challenges or learning novel technologies, hindering their professional growth. In a bid to prove their worth, developers may overwork, risking burnout and reducing job satisfaction. This continuous struggle may also cause developers to avoid applying for promotions or taking on more challenging roles, consequently stunting career progression. Oops. It's crucial to remember that whilst imposter syndrome can affect anyone, it's especially prevalent in fields like software development that involve continual learning, problem solving, and high performance standards. Now that we've taken a closer look at the multifaceted impacts of imposter syndrome, especially in high performance fields like software development, let's transition to explore the React strategy, a tool designed to help us navigate and mitigate these challenges effectively. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a powerful tool that can help us combat imposter syndrome, the React strategy. Each letter in the acronym represents a proactive step you can take to counteract self-doubt and reinforce your confidence. R stands for Record Successful Outcomes and Feedback, a practice of documenting your achievements and positive reviews to serve as tangible proof of your capabilities. E stands for Evaluate Imposter Thoughts and Challenge Implicit Assumptions, encouraging introspection and critical examination of any unwarranted self-doubt. A is for Ask People You Trust, urging you to seek outside perspectives, be it for feedback or reassurance from trusted individuals in your network. C signifies Challenge Assumptions with data, promoting the use of concrete evidence to refute any irrational beliefs about your competence. Finally, T represents Transform Imposter Thought, prompting a shift in mindset from doubt to belief in your abilities and accomplishments. Each of these steps combined forms a robust strategy to manage and overcome imposter syndrome, ultimately empowering you to entrust in your own worth and potential. Okay, gear up, folks. So there I was, infiltrating uncharted territories of the codebase, feeling a bit like Indiana Jones, lost in the labyrinth of an ancient crypt. I was stumbling upon advanced design patterns that I'd only seen in the wild plains of Stack Overflow. Yep, you guessed it. The imposter syndrome alarm bells were ringing louder than my coffee machine on a Monday morning. There I was, contemplating the cosmic joke. Why on earth does the upper echelon believe I can wrangle this code monster? It was like they handed me the controls of the Starship Enterprise while I was still trying to master Space Invaders. But before we can summon the React strategy, we needed to lay some groundwork. I encourage you to compile all feedback you've received so far, both accolades and critiques. If feedback isn't flowing your way just yet, record personal victories instead. They could be instances like, I outpaced my deadline on a project, or I voiced my thoughts in a meeting where I'd usually stay silent. The key is to pinpoint actionable successes where you were the prime mover. Once you have this data in memory, we're set to venture into the next phase of our strategy. All right. Let's continue on with this journey into the wildlands of our memory. As we return to that imposter thought, why does the leadership team think I can handle this new feature in part of the code base I don't know anything about? To evaluate this imposter thought, let's hop in our DeLorean and track the breadcrumb trail leading up to this imposter thought. Yes, we're going back to the imposter future. Just prior to being assigned this feature, my PR received more comments than a controversial tweet. While the feedback was valid, the sheer number of comments had me feeling like I was less of a coder. Vulnerability meter maxed out. How did that feel? Is the next thing I would ask. We're not on Oprah's couch, so I'll spare you the waterworks and I'm not going to trauma dump on y'all. However, let's try to decode this. I started to see every comment as a tally mark against me, each one seemingly validating my sense of inadequacy. After swallowing this bitter pill, it's time to challenge implicit assumptions about our imposter thought. Let's put it on trial. Is there concrete evidence backing this thought? Are we seeing things through the lens of reason, or are we cooking up some dramatic narrative? Do our behaviors confirm this thought? In the avalanche of feedback, did we miss any nuggets of praise? Maybe we misunderstood the tone of a comment. In such cases, it's always a good idea to reach out and clarify. With this step successfully navigated, we now set sail to the next island in our strategy, seeking guidance from trusted confidants. Okay, picture this again. This step as the phone a friend lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's optional, but highly recommended. If you can take out the time to share your imposter thought with a trusted advisor, you've got a secret weapon. This could be anyone from your life who excels in radical candor. They're as straightforward as an arrow, but they cushion the blow with care. It's a bit like rubber duck debugging, but with a human instead of a rubber duck. In my case, my phone a friend was my older sister, a seasoned Army interrogator with over 13 years of experience and numerous deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan under her belt. Let's just say she does not mince her words. I felt like a code rookie, getting debugged by a human compiler. However, that conversation provided me with an arsenal of arguments to shoot down my imposter thoughts. Okay, we're almost at the end of the imposter conquering journey. Buckle up as we move to the next stop, challenging the imposter's thought with cold, hard data. This step is our attempt to separate the code from the bugs, the constructive feedback from the imposter syndrome whispers. It's like hunting for Easter eggs, except some of them might be decoys. Imposter syndrome isn't a get out of jail free card for every self-doubting thought. Sometimes a nugget of genuine, actionable feedback might be hiding beneath the surface. This step is all about unearthing that. Imagine you're setting up your workspace, but instead of dual monitors, you've got dual columns of data. On your left-hand screen, you're going to load up the data you collected in the R step of the React strategy, which is your Rolodex of feedback and successful outcomes. Also, remember to add the insights you gained from your trusted phone or friend from the A step as well. Now, on your right-hand side of your screen, list all your imposter thoughts that love to crash the party when you're trying to concentrate on your code. Now it's time to play matchmaker. Does the data on the left confirm or contradict the party crashers on the right? If there's a match, you might have stumbled upon some valuable feedback or a legitimate concern. If a mismatch with the left-hand data outright debunks the right-hand thought, you've probably encountered an imposter. The thought, I can't handle this new feature in its unfamiliar part of the code, was a party crasher, the imposter. The data on the left not only didn't match, it flat out contradicted it. All right, folks, it's time for the grand finale. We're about to transform those imposter thoughts. You've done the legwork now, categorized your thoughts, sifted the actionable feedback from the imposter rambles. Now it's time to shape these thoughts in a way that truly reflects the data you've amassed. Think of it as a software update for your thought process. You might just need a small patch here and there, or you might require a complete system reboot. Taking our example from before, the I can't handle this new feature in this unfamiliar part of the code, it's time for its transformation scene. A well-suited, data-backed revision of this would look something like, I've received feedback on using tools effectively, enabling me to identify and deploy the right tool for the right use case, no matter how alien the environment. See that? Not only am I capable of handling new challenges, but have also been recognized for it. That's your imposter thought, rebooted and ready for action. Now you're armed and ready to tackle those imposter thoughts head on. Just remember, it's less mission impossible and more mission probable. You've got this. Okay.
All right, we'll see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, did you
Can you hear
guys
us
hear
now?
everything I said?
Heard it all.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys.
All right.
That was so awkward.
So,
I was like laughing in
I
my
think I
own
just
head.
had to add it. We just had to add it to the screen. So, yeah, open up for any questions. Any comments? Questions? I think,
You're clearly a brilliant expert on this subject. Just remember that next time you're having a thought. That's your feedback.
the feedback was you're clearly a brilliant expert on this subject. So, all good thoughts.
Thanks, guys. I do want to shout out.
No, I know. I
we
think
have
everyone's been there. So, it was a great talk.
Yeah. Quick shout out if anybody's looking to do a hackathon, we're having one Friday. I can post it in the channel. Shameless plug.
All right. Well, thank you, Adriana. All right. Now, next up, we have Alex.
Some minutes, so you guys should talk again.
Yes, we're talking.
We don't have like an open.
Yeah, no. There we go.
All right. Anything about?
Nope, you are good to go.
Okay. We're gonna start with an intro from this fella who's gonna tell a riddle.
All right, so I just
Get
wanted to,
excited.
yes, Alex didn't know I was going to do this, but I just wanted to tell you guys a little riddle. Just keep you on your toes, just for something fun. It's really silly, but let's see if you can get it. So, what is orange and rhymes with parrot?
Carrot?
Yeah, that's what most people say.
Carrot.
Carrot. Okay, so see, everyone's saying that. So, carrot. What?
Dyed ferret?
Ooh, I like it.
Orange dyed ferret. Yeah. Well, so, but
Orange
I don't think that's right, and I don't think carrot is right because carrots don't rhyme, right? Carrots are vegetables, right? So it's not a carrot. Those don't have rhyming properties. The things that have rhyming properties are words, right? They have like phonological properties. So yeah. So sorry, it's a trick question. Nothing, right? It's like a type. It's a type mistake. Or, I mean, you could maybe be tricky and be like, oh, it's the word carrot written in orange, right? That's kind of like a dyed ferret, a dyed word. Anyways, that was it. Sorry. If you're confused about it, talk to me afterwards. It's playing on this. It's called the use mention distinction, right? It's like you say like cheese is derived from milk in an Old English word. Well, cheese, the stuff is derived from milk, but the word cheese is derived from Old English. It's like an inference.
So do I get the job?
You gotta react to it. Cool. Yeah, that's the interview question. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about something totally useless for you all. Which is this is going to be about conducting effective interviews. So you're the one interviewing someone else. You're not the interviewee. You're the interviewer. Now this is something that lots of people do all the time with no guidance, and you will probably at some point in your career do this, whether or not you get some guidance. And so this is something, anyway, we're gonna go on. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you my story. I was asked at some point, someone said, I'd like for you to interview someone. And I was like, cool, what should I do? And they said, oh, you just look up some interview questions. There's all these online and it'll work great. And I said, okay. And I thought to myself, I'm just like meeting someone. I'm a pretty good gauge of human beings. This will be fine. And it wasn't. It was pretty bad. And then I did it for another like 6 years or something. And it was also still pretty bad. And then finally one day I met someone who said, hey, Alex, let's hire a team. What kind of interview process should we design? And I was like, what? You can actually plan these things out? And so this is mostly about my takeaways from that experience, juxtaposed with some fun horror stories. Yeah, anyway. So we're gonna start with what interviews often get wrong. So we like to think that a toy problem, some sort of analogous problem can give us a good gauge of skill. We like to think that someone in this situation, while you're staring daggers at them, judging them for their whole self-worth, when given this weird problem that has never shown up and will never show up in their life, will somehow tell you how they will be as an employee and a colleague. The second thing, we think that if someone has a technical skill, that will translate over to, oh, they'll work great in a team, right? We call everything that's not a technical skill, we call these soft skills, which I think is like super insulting and dumb. I personally think that like slinging code is pretty darn easy, but like getting past your defensiveness in order to explain your fear about a particular architecture is like super hard. That's my take, at least. We also think that interviews are one directional for some reason. You're testing someone to see if they're worthy, and that's it, right? You leave out this whole idea that, oh, right, they might not choose me also, right? That's important. They're not working for us, they're working with us at the end of the day. And then lastly, we think that technical skills look one specific way. And so if they answer a question that's not in the way that I was thinking, then they're wrong, right? Sorry, that was a good one. Okay, so my rules for interviewing. Get ready. Okay, so we want to outsource everything we can. We want to make sure that we are not testing whether or not they have a CS degree. Like that's on the resume. We assume that the school didn't lie to us. Like just let that go. We need to know what our actual job as we're interviewing looks like and know what things we need to see in order to be demonstrated to us that will be a good fit, right? This is probably the most important one right there. Okay, and then we need to formulate a scenario that actually fits. So if you do 100% pair programming, you got to pair with them. If everything's asynchronous, then give them a take-home problem and have them present it. If there's never enough information, then leave out some information, right? Just make it fit. Make it your job. Okay, now here's the next thing. Make it your job to get them hired. So this one might sound weird if you're used to, trying to catch them on things. But remember that they are stressed. They're out of their element. Their whole life worth is on the line here. And if they have 3 out of 5 of the requirements, they'll learn the last 2 in their first week on the job. So act like the team member that you want them to be with you. Next, be ready to be wrong. Feel stupid. Yeah, we'll get to that one. That's a good one. And then lastly, if possible, bring a buddy. It is really, really helpful. You will screw up. It is really great to have someone to check you on things. If possible, not always possible, but Okay, so outsourcing information. So now we're going to go through that list. That was an agenda. Ooh, I'm organized. Okay. So story, one time I was asked some coding questions. I was asking someone some coding questions. I thought they were so smart. They were better at Golang than I was. And I was like, well, I can't not hire someone who's better at Golang than I am, right? That's pretty darn good, right? The problem is the job, they started working with me and I was like, okay, cool. I need you to build a service that takes data from there and puts it over here on whatever time schedule makes sense. And I want it to not fall apart. And they were like, what are you talking about? You need to give me a task and then manage me doing this task. I was like, oh, that's not how it's going to happen. So we had a values or a process issue that just wasn't going to get resolved. This was between me and this fella. And that was 100% the thing that we should have been interviewing for. But I was so focused on the interview, checking this person's technical expertise, which we have answers for that. If you want their expertise, you give them some problems. You say, do the thing online. So you want to there's the phrase, if you want something done right, do it yourself. I think that's a good phrase. And there's a second piece of it that you should remember, which is, and if you don't need it done right, give it away to everyone else, right? Don't do those things yourself because you need to focus in order to get it done right. So outsource as much as you can. With this, I wanted to make sure that you're doing your research. That's part of it. Is like when you're outsourcing something, especially like coding challenges. I've seen coding challenges where the person who was reviewing it missed a huge authentication bug that the interviewee did, and so I use myself as a second pass to check that work. And it's just like, you want to have as many first passes to weed out people and to get like a good gauge, and you can be the last person to check things off. Use their resume, read their resume before you're talking to them. Like, there's no reason not to. It's got good information often. People spend time writing these things. Okay. Next, know what you're looking for. So this is the most important one. So here's story time again. So one time I was interviewing at a place. They had me getting really tired on the whiteboard. It was like so long, hours and hours of interviews of my technical abilities. And I was like, and I didn't have a good understanding of what the values of this company were. So I said I needed to go to the bathroom. When I was in the bathroom, I just like accosted a bunch of people and I asked them about their day, what they did there. And it turned out their main thing is they just spent 11 hours a day in that office. That was like their job. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I know the values of this company, right? They weren't going to tell me that value. I don't know why. But that's an important thing, because I could have taken that job and then just immediately quit. And that would have been a total bummer for them, a total bummer for me. They could have been at the same time just being upfront with someone, whether or not they knew that important value. Anyway, so your company probably, hopefully, has a list of values somewhere. If it doesn't, then that's a value of theirs, being disorganized. But you can, if they don't, then you can figure out the values by thinking what actions you see people do that make you think, boss won't like that, or I'll bet they'll get a promotion, right? So you can look at the actions that people are doing and how you internalize your reaction to that. That'll give you your values, and those are important. And then now you want to think about it as you are, you're trying to figure out what you need to see in order to see those values. The rest of the interview process, you're releasing the idea of trying to get someone that you like or who's good. You're now focused on someone who fits the values. That's it, right? The other parts of the values is you can think about it as someone who will, sorry, I'm disorganized. Anyway, if you're looking for someone that is fitting the same role as you, you can think about what things I do throughout my day that work really well. Remember, it's not someone exactly like you, it's things that I do. What do they do? And then the other thing you want to think about is what things would I wish that I could do, right? So me, I'm always looking for someone who's super organized. Surprise, surprise, right? Because they'll balance me out really well. They'll be a really good teammate for me, keep me on topic. Okay, come up with questions that fit. So, okay, now I'll tell you a good thing. At Pando, this is the company I worked for when I was developing this strategy. The interviewee comes with some code that they've written. It was a full stack job, so it's like, okay, give me a vertical slice, and we're gonna look through the code, and I will poke and ask questions, and then I show them mine, and I'll show them, this is what a piece of code that I've written or my team's written, and we'll talk about it, and they get to poke and ask questions. This was super helpful because what I ended up doing is that pretty much every time, you give me 15 minutes of some code and I will be able to find a bug. This isn't because I'm magic. This is because code has bugs in it, right? And when you poke at that, it really gave me a super awesome signal because I could see, okay, what does someone say when I confront them with, hey, what do you do when the WebSockets timeout? Like that thing falls apart. Like, how do you catch that? And they could say like, oh, what? That doesn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is perfect. Or they could, they could get defensive, or they can say, oh, that's a great idea. Or we didn't actually have time for that. We thought about it and like we prioritized something else. Like that was super awesome because it fit how we at our company and my team wanted to talk about code. And that was the important things for me. Okay. Don't be afraid to make it super relevant, super specific. And then the thing you want to do too is you want to make it fit your values and not fit things that are not your values. And what I mean by that is, this is the make it accessible, is if you do not care about something, make sure you're not checking that. Sorry, let me just, okay. Going on. So the next thing, try to get them to pass. Try and get them to be shining, beautiful. So one time I was in an interview and I didn't succeed at the interview, and I asked there was like a hiring manager, and I was like, so what, because everything went fine. Everything went swimmingly. I never heard someone say like, oh, can you do this differently or whatever. And it turned out I wasn't using object-oriented programming enough. I didn't show them that I had that skill. And I was like, well, nobody asked, right? I can do that. I can be functional. It can go either way. A lot of us have a lot of skills. But if you don't give people direction, well, how do they know? So you may not have thought of this already, is that the last time you were going to an interview that didn't go well, you probably didn't get enough sleep, your friend's mad at you, you're overdue on some bills or something, like you're not feeling your best. Like so often almost all the time, people have like things going wrong with them that sucks. And they're now in front of you and they're trying to get this job that will hopefully be their job for the next 10 years, right? There's so much stress there, and they're going to be missing things, and they're going to be making stupid mistakes. And if your company wants them to be operating on that level of stress all the time, then absolutely, just like lay the hammer down, make them feel more uncomfortable. If that's your values, we're going back to that. If that's your values, then do it, lean in. If it's not, if you're trying to make a hospitable working environment, then this is the place to start, right? So you really want to be the teammate that you want them to be. Let's see, re-rail them. Okay. And okay, the last thing, don't worry about catching a liar. Just don't. It sucks when you do have a liar. I've had that where someone said, oh, I'm so good at this. And I was like, cool. And then they came and I was like, oh, where did this skill disappear to? And it sucks, but it's okay, I think. Y'all can have different values. Check your company's values if they say lie, but I think it's better to get someone who can learn that skill that they were kind of missing. It's just not worth it otherwise. Next one. Okay, this one's kind of a horror story. So I was at an interview where they asked me to design a system for that was integrating high school system with Spotify. And so I had my first 3 questions were obviously like, what OAuth grants are we allowing ourselves? What date ranges, time ranges do we want on the data? And like, how are we authenticating the students with the school? And they hadn't thought about any of these things. They didn't know how OAuth works. And they hadn't thought about the data analysis or cared about authentication. So I was like, okay, not a problem. I'll just make some assumptions so we can get through the problem. And you know that these are assumptions. We know these are assumptions, we're gonna move on. And so then I moved on to writing some SQL for them for making the query at the end. And it turns out they don't know SQL, right? So they got pretty angry. It kind of sucked because I was blindsided by it. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this, right? So this won't matter until someday when it does. Like someday someone's gonna make you feel stupid. You're gonna have imposter syndrome when interviewing someone. And the question is, can you recover from it? The thing that I want you to remember, if and when this does happen, is that you're not being tested right now, right? You want to get someone that is smarter than you, better than you in some way, right? That's going to make a good team member. That's going to make your company so much money, and you're going to get a super awesome house and a yacht and stuff, right? This hiring someone who is better than you in some way is awesome. If you can deal with getting through that interview. Okay. Last thing, bring a friend. So one time when I was interviewing, I thought this one person was awesome. And my buddy, who was in the same interview as me, we were side by side, was like, they're an egotistical jerk. We were in the same room, it was just afterwards, we found that one person. Okay, another time we were interviewing someone from Saudi Arabia, and he kept on referring to generic users as all male. And I was really like, this is not, our values are we look at all of our users are generic human beings, and they're not generic human beings, but they're not all male. We can't make that assumption. I want to be thinking of them as various people. And my buddy was like, yeah, there's just a language difference. This isn't them assuming that everyone's male. It's like this language works a different way, and that's just how the translation happens in their brain. It's not that weird. So it's important, no matter how clear-minded you are, you're going to miss things, especially in front of a stranger. You're going to be making weird assumptions. You're going to be thinking things are one way when someone else will see them a very different way. How I like to do this is me and someone else interview someone, and then afterwards we write down our notes, we write down our feedback. There's like a checklist of like response to this, little questionnaires, and then we publish these things relative to each other, and then we talk about it. We read each other's things, and then we talk about it, so that you get really like, this is my internal, I felt creeped out by blah, blah, and then let them, because it's good to get those feedbacks, whether or not you discount it. Anyway. And then the thing that's really the best part about this, even if it doesn't matter what the two of you thought about this one person, is that then you get better at interviewing together. That's where the feedback, that's a great piece of feedback there. Anyway, recap. So do your research beforehand. Don't be checking things that you could check beforehand, out of band, done by other people. Know what job you're actually trying to fulfill. Don't just try and get someone you like or who's friendly. Unless that's your value, then absolutely only that, right? Ask relevant questions, get relevant answers, right? Fair enough. Help them be the best them. You're gonna see them on a bad day, expect it to be a bad day, help them be the best them. Don't try and impress them. Remember, They're trying to impress you. You don't need two people doing that against each other. Stay focused on them, who they are, what they bring to the table, and then do it together. Now, here's the part where I added another slide for everyone here who's trying to go to interviews instead of interview people. So when you're an interviewee, the takeaway that you can use is that remember that everyone's sucking at these things, at these 6 things that I just listed out. So think about the opposite of those. So if we go back, expect them to not have done their research beforehand. Expect them to not know the job that they're trying to fulfill. Expect them to not ask relevant questions, etc. So how do we deal with that? Expect that since they're missing relevant information, give that information, right? Oh, when I was at college doing this, right? Oh yeah, I was in that scenario one time, right? They don't know these things. Know the reasons that you're already a good fit for their job, right? You know, well, I don't know about you, but when I've been in this kind of a team, I've run into this situation, right? They're going to ask you irrelevant questions. You should probably know what time complexity means, because that's an irrelevant question they always ask. Oh, and linked lists. Know what linked lists are if you're going to interviews. Okay. Engage your it's not helpful. It's not helpful, but it'll get you a job. Engage your interviewer as a teammate. Expect that they might get thrown off by you going, does this look right to you? Usually I ask someone when I get into this situation, but it'll probably work out. They're probably used to talking to people about code. Okay, be ready to be wrong, learn something. So also, you know, the same thing goes in this direction. You might make them feel stupid. They might make you feel stupid. Yeah, it's how it goes. Just recover, breathe and recover. And then remember, they're probably nervous as well. It's any first date. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's got the butterflies. Let that be an okay thing. You can talk about it with them. You can say, how are you doing? Like, that's okay. They're humans too. That's it. Sweet. We're like out of time, but do you guys have questions?
As an interviewer,
Yeah.
when you say bring a buddy, is that somebody that you kind of already have a good rapport with, or?
That's a good question. So if you can, sorry, I'm gonna go like this because my face is behind me. Yeah, I think it's really good to have someone that you have a good rapport with. You know, if you too are calm and happy and jovial, it'll make the other person feel more confident and calm there. So I've been in interviews. I haven't done this way myself, but I've been in interviews where there's 2 different people at opposite ends of the company and they've never talked to each other before. And that didn't go awesome. It was awkward. But having 2 people on the same team and they're like, I don't know, what do you think about this? I don't know, what do you think about that? Right? That feels so good to be interviewing with. It's not necessary, but I think it's really helpful.
Can you make sure to add the slides into Slack that I can look at them later?
Yeah, totally. They're online.
Yes, I mean, I like all that. Really cool. Makes sense. I was having a slight worry somewhere, like with the positivity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down for that as well.
Totally.
I was sort of thinking like in these interview processes, like I'm sure a lot of time you are trying to pick holes in people. You're finding negatives, or you're making like pro and con lists or something.
Totally.
It seems like a lot of what you're saying is like, well, don't do that. Just find the positives in each candidate, and maybe you can make a relative ranking.
Totally.
There. But I don't know. But in my limited experience in the room where decisions are made,
yeah,
a lot of it is just like trashing on people.
Yeah, sure.
But I guess you're suggesting.
Well, so when I get back to the room where decisions are made, I don't like to trash on people. I like to say, okay, so this is the thing that helped really, that seemed really good. These are the things that seemed not great about them in terms of our company, to be clear. The thing that I would say is, it's not so much that you're trying to like smooth over the crap, shall we say. It's that you're trying to give them the opportunity to prove themselves awesome, right? So in my example, the OOP thing, you're like, hey, this is what we're looking for right now. Oh, you might not have realized, but this is like, this is what we're looking for. Having those values in mind and being able to just like hand them over to them or catch them when they're going to be making a big ol' error. Just be like, is that going to be a global authentication key there? Like, are you sure you want that? Like, what'll happen when this happens, right? So instead of walking away, instead of like waiting for them to mess something up, writing it down, and then walking away and being like, hey, they messed this one thing up. That's you can just give them feedback during the interview. That's the big takeaway here. That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So that they have as much time to fix.
So I got an interesting one, maybe playing on that. Yeah. What if you are a person who isn't the one in the room,
Mm-hmm.
but you have some strong opinions about who they're hiring,
Mm.
people who are making those decisions because you're working with them, obviously, you're working with new hires, and how those go. How do you talk to the person who's doing the hiring and maybe send them your presentation so they do better?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, this is a really good question. And oftentimes you don't have as much power as you want in a situation like this. I think that the thing that's the most effective in any company is like asking questions, right? And spearheading things. Like oftentimes people are more ready to accept a great idea, React. Oh, right, she's not here. But people are more excited to hear a good idea than you think. You're like, oh, they're gonna hear this and think it's stupid. Remind yourself, like, this is me just coming up with a good idea. This is me telling them a good idea. If they say no, they say no. If they say yes, it's great. But you can start with asking questions. Be like, hey, what are our company values? Oh, you just asked me to interview someone? Like how did, you can say like, okay, how does this work? Hey, I've heard that this one thing is helpful. Do we do that here? Should we do that here? Does anyone want to talk about that? Who should I talk to about that, right? You can like move around in the company asking these questions. You don't need to be I demand this. But you can ask the questions and see where it takes you. Yeah.
You should add one more nicety to never ghost after you interview.
Yeah, I agree. I specifically, I like giving feedback to people that it kind of can suck to feel like, oh, we didn't want you because, but I think that's really helpful for people. And I think it's just makes, come on, you can do that. You've generated the feedback for them, right? By having that conversation. So I like that.
Just kind of seconding that, similar. You want to like shepherd people as quickly through the process as you can, because the longer your process takes, like the more likely either they drop off or you drop off.
And there's another part of that that's really helpful, which is that the longer someone takes in an interviewing system, the more stressed they will get about it. Like, I don't know if you've ever been like, oh, I've been interviewing at this place for 2 months. Like my first week, I was feeling awesome, right? And then 2 months into it, someone asked me a coding challenge and I just like had no idea. There's like no way I'm gonna answer a coding challenge 2 months into this one company because I think it's just, there's no point to taking a long time. It's only hurtful. All right. That's it. Here's a high five for everyone here.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for, I know we're right at the end of time, but thanks for coming. Keep an eye out in Slack. I'm going to post some links for all the stuff for BendTech. If you guys are interested, we'll send some info for Jacqueline. If you guys are interested in some real estate, also the TAO offer and just kind of everything we talked about tonight. Real quick, one more time, who are the people who are still here whose company is potentially hiring? Okay, so if you're looking for work, go find one of those people and talk to them. All right, thanks everybody.